Well, it is my privilege to introduce our speaker today, Sarah Collins with Collins Career Coaching. And first off, I just want to know a little bit about your background, how you got here, what you're doing today.
Yes, I have a whole spiel. I give it all the time, so welcome. So I'm from Hubbard, Nebraska, which is a very small town of 200 people up in the northeast corner of the state. And growing up, my parents had never gone to college, but they were very insistent that I do. However, their stipulation was that I come to Lincoln and be a Cornhusker because they love the football team. So I applied to one school, and I'm always like, thank goodness they let me in because I had no other plans. And so, you know, when you first decide to go to college, everyone says, what are you going to major in? And the only thing I knew about myself was that I like to talk. You'll see a lot of that today. And so I thought, of course, I should go to school as a broadcast major, and my dream was to be an MTV VJ, which is so ridiculous because they don't even make music videos anymore, but that's what I wanted to do. So I go to college, I have no idea what to expect, I sit down with my advisor, and this man has so much experience, and here I am, like 18, like, I just want to be on MTV, and he basically was like, you need to be on the local news first. And I was like, that's a deal breaker for me. So I think, like, how do I change my major without having to set myself back? And so I look around, and I'm in the journalism college. I'm like, advertising. I don't have to take any different prereqs. I'm still on the same track. So I always say that's how 18-year-olds make decisions. Like, what's the easiest thing here? So I start my major. I change it to go to advertising, and I'm going through school. And I felt like I didn't fit there, but I didn't know what else to do. And I can remember sitting in this big class, and they were talking about you had to have an internship and that they were super competitive. But they said, don't worry, as long as you're super passionate about advertising, you'll easily get an internship. And I knew I was in trouble. I was like, oh no, I'm not passionate. I don't have that. So I muster my way through, I graduate, I move to Texas because I just feel like I'm a big fish in a small pond. I need to go somewhere. I have no job, but I had a boyfriend for 6 months, so I brought him to Texas with me. This is all, you know, good decision making. And neither of us have a job. So where I'm like scrambling, I finally find a job working at this little company, and they hired me to do like front desk work and advertising. But the whole time I'm there, I'm miserable. I'm just sitting on a computer. I'm working on like building catalogs. I am working on their website. I just have no people interaction. Everyone that is working there is on the phone. And my boyfriend didn't have a job for 9 months. So it was like not going well. And I eventually think like, I gotta get back to Nebraska. I didn't realize how much I love Nebraska until I left. So I start looking for a job, and I find a job online that I want to apply for, and I think it's at the university as an admissions counselor. So like every 22-year-old, I send it to my mom, to which she says, this job is in Curtis, Nebraska, Sarah. And I'm like, what is Curtis, Nebraska? But I'm so desperate, I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll do anything. So there's a college there called the Nebraska College of Technical Agriculture, and they hired me to be an admissions counselor. So I moved from Austin, Texas to Curtis, Nebraska. And I start traveling around 5 different states in the Midwest, going to high schools, talking to students about what they want to do for college. And I love this job. It's so exciting, I have so much energy, and I think this is what I should do with the rest of my life. And everyone I meet says, well, you have to go back to school if you want to work in higher ed. Like, you need more education. I'm like, oh, geez, I just finished that last thing. So I start looking at programs, and I find that UNL has a program in student affairs. And I think that's what will set me up to be an admissions counselor. So I apply, and I get in, and when I'm there, they put us in these assistantship programs, and they wanted to put me in career services. And I was like, I don't know that I should be a career coach because I'm kind of a disaster on that front. They're like, don't worry, we'll teach you, we'll train you. And then they also make us take the Gallup Strengths Assessment while we're there. And when I get my strengths, I have positivity, woo, communication, harmony, and activator. I I definitely saw those within myself, but I was also a little embarrassed because I'm in graduate school. You know, all of my colleagues have analytical and strategic and command and self-assurance, and I'm like, hi, do you want a hug? So I'm like, I don't know how this is going. But they press it on to us over and over again. And while I was at the university in the Career Center in my assistantship, they had a leadership change. They had had a director who had been there for years, and he was loved by so many, and he was so popular, but he retired. And so when they went to fill his position, they had an internal candidate. Of course, you know, half the staff wanted her, the other didn't. She applied, she didn't get it, but she was still interim, so the drama was high. And the culture was suffering. You know, people were just not happy. Leadership was undetermined. It was just not a wonderful environment at that time. But that interim director pulled me aside one day and said, I just want to thank you because every time you show up here, it changes the atmosphere. People are talking, they're laughing, it feels like a really happy place to be, and that's the impact you're having. And so for me, that was the moment I was like, oh, my strengths, when I'm using them, actually are doing a lot of good. So I start really leaning into it. I get a job at the College of Business, being a career coach, and by the time I graduated grad school, when I was 26, I started at 24, I graduated when I was 26, and by the time I was 29, I was the director of the Career Center at Doane. And I always tell people, I think I was able to go from like, I have no idea what I'm doing in my life, to being a director of a career center because I finally understood what my strengths were, and I started to lean into those. So I worked at Doane for a few years, and then I had my first son. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm commuting 30 minutes a day, or an hour, 30 minutes each way, and I'm working a ton, and how am I gonna do this with being a mom? And my husband is an entrepreneur, and all of his friends own businesses, and they've always told me, you can do this on your own. You have a skill set that people would want. And so having my son, I thought, okay, I want the flexibility. So I ended up leaving my position at Doane, starting my coaching business, and really have, since that was about 4 years ago, have been able to do it on a part-time basis because when my son was 18 months, I had twins. So I really say, like, I told the universe I was going to have these children, and the universe said, here's some more. So it's been a blessing because that's a lot of children to have at one time. It takes a lot. So I've been just sort of using, I knew that I didn't have a stay-at-home mom 100% mentality. I have that woo. You can't lock woo in a room. So from the beginning, I told my husband, if I'm going to have children, and I want to be able to be with them, but I have to do something else. So I've just been building this business little by little. It really started as career coaching one-on-one, really working. And because I came from education, I really thought young people are my bread and butter. But as I've grown and matured and gotten engaged with other things, my business has evolved. So now I still do career coaching, but I work with people of all ages. And I do much more strengths coaching because I've always used the Gallup strengths in my coaching. And what I found, especially now, right, we've had this pandemic and we've had the Great Recession of all these people leaving. And so what I found is companies are trying to find ways to develop the talent they have and to keep them loyal, which is harder and harder as we have more people virtual. Where is the loyalty for an employee if they don't have their work wife and Judy that they talk to every morning and the people, the connection? If you don't have that, it's so easy to say, well, I'll just take my paycheck from this place on my computer. So by working with companies and organizations, I'm helping them add value to show people that they care about the talent that they have. That was a long answer.
I love it. Well, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been told, or do you have a favorite quote or a favorite tool that you use that makes you feel empowered?
I think
That's not strengths.
yes, I think so. I am very involved at Arrive Co-working. I don't know if you're familiar, but they opened a couple years ago. They are a female-focused co-working community, and for me, the biggest impact for my business has been networking and getting to know other business owners. With my strengths, I'm a relationship builder. Like, that is so influential to me. And I actually facilitate some of the masterminds there, and I'm in one of the masterminds. So the masterminds at Arrive, you meet on a weekly basis with the same group of business owners, and you have a facilitator who is not coaching you, but really is just there to help guide you. And you just show up and you talk about, for each group it can be different, but it's bringing your goals, it's talking about challenges, it's celebrating your successes. As you know, it can be very lonely and isolating at the top when you own your own business. And sometimes our spouses or our friends or our family, they are not the people to go and ask questions because they may not understand the challenge. So when you're in a group with other business owners and they understand and they know you because every week you're committed to them, you can say, I'm dealing with this person, what do I do? Or I need to grow, how can I do it? Or even, I just want to do this, can you hold me accountable to it? So depending on each person. So by facilitating those masterminds, before, as I said, I came from higher ed, I worked with a lot of young people. A ton of people would tell me, you have to go to businesses. And at first when I started my business, I didn't feel confident to do that because I thought, I don't really know anything about businesses. But by being in those rooms every week with these business owners, I learned and gained this confidence, I can go into businesses and talk to them about their people and the talent that they have. And then I joined a coaching mastermind. So I'm in a mastermind there with other coaches. And what it has done for my revenue is just earth-shattering because I was just not charging enough. I don't know anything about running a business. I have total confidence, I'm a good coach, but running a business is so foreign to me. And so to be with other business owners who were collaborative to say, you need to charge this for that. And then, the first time I'm on the phone with a law firm saying it's going to cost this much, and they're like, okay, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that word. So it just totally elevated everything that I've done because it's given me knowledge and confidence that I understand these people and I have value.
Excellent. What do you do to stay motivated or perked up?
Honestly, it is just talking to people. Again, I go back to strengths every time because that's who I am, but I am just such a person who I want to talk things through, I want to get to know people, I want to show up. And so it's sort of funny, but in our life, how I've been part-time stay-at-home mom, part-time business owner, my business is the thing that gives me joy. That sounds bad. My children also give me joy. I am not a robot. But
You gotta wait till let Ralph for the conversation.
yeah. But I just think that being able to go into a room and bring value to people and help them feel confident about themselves, that is just invigorating to me. If I go into a group and I talk to them, I can't sleep at night because I'm just so full of ideas and energy. So to know what makes you really get excited, it's so motivating because then you want to do more of it. It feels easy.
Do you use any other tools besides strengths? We use strengths here for the past 16 years. Lots of other tools have come out since then, and I keep using strengths because it's what I love. I fully believe in it, but I'm just curious if you use any other type of assessment tools like that.
Yeah, I actually don't. For the same thing that you've said, as a career coach, when I started, we of course used all sorts of assessments at the university for career development. I'm a human. I love the Enneagram and MBTI and all of the things. But to me, those don't have the power that strengths does. And so I tell people all the time, I only use the strengths assessment in my business. And that's because I feel as though it does not put someone in a box. So many of the assessments, while they're so interesting and it's just like, it's like candy to gobble up that information about yourself, I personally haven't found a use for it, you know? And so with strengths, we know 1 in every 33.3 million people have the same top 5 in the same order. 1 in every 278,000 have the same top 5 in a different order. And we know that your strengths don't work in isolation. They work together, right? And so someone with communication and someone else with communication are going to use those differently because of the other strengths around them. So you are unique. I cannot look at you and know your top 5 and know everything about you. I'm going to have some ideas, but it is up to you to figure out, how do these work for me now? How does my relator impact my woo, which impacts my self-assurance? And so it's like this puzzle you have to figure out about people, and that's where the power is. But it's all based on positivity. It's positive psychology. It's finding out what you do right and doing more of it. So I love, positivity is my #1 strength. I love that piece of it, but it allows us to really figure out who you are and not put you into a box.
Great. One last question before we open it up to all of you. What is your favorite local Lincoln business?
Well, I was thinking about this before I came in, and it's just too hard to pick, obviously. First of all of you are in the top, right? All of your businesses now are my favorite. I love to eat, so all the ones with food also rank up there. I mean, it seems sort of obvious, I think, but right now it's Arrive, co-working and community, just because they have given me a place to go. Before they were here, I was just working out of my home. I did look at the suites, they were full. Okay, I've toured up here, but it was full when I was here. But it's given me a place to call home, like my home base, and a community around me. And so I don't know what my business would look like if I didn't have that community.
Awesome. Does anybody else have questions? Jody.
Are you familiar with Ken Coleman? He's a Ramsey personality.
Yes, I am. Yes, I follow him on social.
Yeah, so he's got that new book out, Paycheck to Purpose.
Yes.
That I have requested for Valentine's Day.
Have you? Yes, I actually have been meaning to get that book as well, because I think he's so interesting, and he has a radio show. I think I need a radio show.
You do
like,
need
how
a
do I
radio
get up
show.
on that?
A podcast.
You need a podcast.
Well, I thought about podcasts, but really I don't want to do any of the work. I'll be honest, I got real limited time. I just need someone to say, show up and talk, and then leave.
You need to look for
That
other people's
activator in you.
podcasts
Yes.
and be on it, because there's so many out there, and you just show up and do whatever. So
Exactly, I
out
do. That is so true. But I'm gonna be totally honest. Right now, with me being part-time stay-at-home mom, I just show up and do the business that I have, and I don't look for anything else. So if you know anything, you can send them my name.
Well, you and Noam you both have twins, so
Ooh,
is there?
it's a club.
Yeah, club. 13 months old.
17.
I'm so wrong.
17 months old. That is a time.
Actually, today is their monthly birthday.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And yours are?
Mine are 2.5.
Okay. Close.
Yeah, that's pretty close in age. That's a lot of work.
It's only a season.
I know. I really keep telling myself,
Yep.
it's only a season. It will pass.
I'm one that have used other strength methods. I don't know if you've used Profiles International, or if you've been exposed to that with this team. We had a fellow, I worked for Leadership Resources for 10 years. One of the benefits we found from StrengthFinders was it goes beyond just your strength. It deals with your personality and your behavioral traits, because sometimes something that might be number 6 instead of the top 5 can be used to enhance the top 5.
Yeah.
So we found that to be useful. I use that with some of my people, as well as strengths, when I do my coaching.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Did you ever have Bud Pagel when you were a journalman?
I don't think so.
He's probably retired by
Yeah, so with the StrengthFinder now, they've released the 34 report.
Yeah.
And when I work with people now, I focus on the top 10. Even though many only have the top 5, I encourage all of my clients to get the top 10 because of what you said. I think that our strengths, it's our top 10 that we have dominant strengths of and that we can lean on easily.
And build into it.
And build into, exactly. And I think it gives us a better picture of who we really are, because you'll know if you retake the assessment, which they say you don't need to, because basically what it will do is just shuffle your top 10. And so that's where the power is. So I took mine for the first time in 2011 when I started grad school, and I've never retaken it because my 6 through 10 are responsibility, individualization, developer, arranger, and input. And I know now, back then I was 24, single, living a life. Now I have 3 children, I'm married, I own my own business, I'm 35. I know that I lean more on that 6 through 10. If I were to retake the assessment, those would show up 1 through 5. I still have the others. I still obviously am a woo in positivity and communication, but those others are so much more prevalent in what I'm doing every day.
As you grow and develop and mature into your businesses and that, I'm a dyslexic 28-year-old, and so I've taken it a second time because I do, to your point, you not only rearrange it, but I think you see how some of the 6 through 10 enhance your top 5, and maybe the top 5 even reorganize it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Molly?
What services do you offer, or what ideal client are you looking for? And how does somebody who's never had their strengths done work with you?
Yes, that is a great question. Huh, it's like she's a planted seed.
She's been to some networking.
Yeah. So I work with individual clients on career coaching. So I do everything from helping people figure out I've met with high schoolers trying to figure out what they should major in college, to young people who are trying to figure out what to do, to people more advanced in their career who are doing a career transition. So really anywhere on the spectrum, if you're in a career change, I do coaching to help you figure out what that could look like. And then I also do resume development. I'm a coach, so I always tell people I'm not writing anyone's resume for them. I'm working with them. I want to teach them how to write a resume. I do cover letters, same thing. I do interview prep, which I always tell people in terms of career development, that's where I can make the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time, because a lot of people just don't know what they don't know when it comes to interviewing, and I can teach them that. So I do that with clients, and those can be bought sort of a la carte or in a package, depending on what people are looking for. And then I do the strength stuff. So for that, if anyone's coaching with me, I recommend they do the strengths assessment, because it just adds to our entire conversation. All the coaching I'm going to do is strengths-based, whether they have it or not. So it just helps them to learn more about themselves. And when most people come to me for career stuff, they're not in a real great place. Most people aren't like, I love my job, could I work with you? Most people and I always tell people the hardest thing about a career transition is yourself. It's your mind, it's your emotions. Because when you're in a career transition, there's so much self-doubt. Maybe something happened that knocked your confidence down. It's confusing, it's hard to talk about. So we want that strengths assessment to add positivity, so you have talent and you can be successful. So it's just such a great foundation. And then on the other side with groups, I do a variety of things. So if a group or an organization wants to do strengths, I can do, just one session, which is totally not enough, but if someone wants to pay me to do that, I will. But it can be, typically I offer like a 2-part for an organization who wants to start learning about strengths with their team. The first part is really an introduction to strengths, and then the second part is teamwork makes the dream work, is what I call it, because and so we really dig into the team stuff. I can do one-on-one coaching. I recently just signed a big law firm in town for a whole year of strengths coaching in the firm. So I'll be with them all of 2022, and we'll do, workshops throughout the year, individual coaching with anyone in the firm, and we're going to train up strengths ambassadors within the firm so they actually have that lasting cultural impact beyond the time that I'm there.
Make them post their strengths on their doors.
Oh yeah, you know it. You know it.
I come from that culture.
Yes. You have to know them though. I mean, I tell people anytime I present, I meet people all the time and they'll say, oh, I've done the strengths, and I say, what are they? And they say, I don't know, where's my phone? I gotta find them. And so when we talk about strengths, we talk about name it, aim it, claim it, and name it is you have to memorize them, because if you don't know what they are, they're literally gonna do nothing for you, so it's sort of a waste of money. Oh, you also asked if you've never worked with strengths, how do you do it? Well, you can come through me or even just on the website. I'm the worst salesperson, by the way. I need business development because I constantly am talking myself out of money. You can come through me. But you just can take the assessment online and then get your strengths. And they will give you different reports that you can look at, but they don't really mean as much unless you are working with a coach to help you understand what that report means.
So do you find much resistance from someone who's coming in to make a career change? You really are moving them more towards their strengths out of where they're going, and moving them into a totally different career path. Do you find a lot of resistance?
No, because as a coach, I don't actually move them anywhere. They move themselves. So I'm not taking anybody any place they don't want to be. So when I work with someone who's doing a career transition, the first thing we do if we look at career development is explore self, which is where the strengths assessment comes in, but we also figure out what are your skills, those things you're really good at, what are your interests, those things you really like, and what are your values, those things that are important to you. And that may seem very basic and simple on the surface, but most people do not know. And so I have a paper assessment that I'll use with them. It literally is just a list that they self-assess of skills and interest and then values. There's different stuff we can do to help them figure that out. And once we figure out who they are, which is a huge part of it, because honestly, nobody asks us. We should be asking high schoolers this, and throughout our lives, we should all know how to assess ourselves, but we don't. Then it's exploring careers. And I work with them, and I have different resources to use to figure out, okay, what careers are you interested in? Let's do that work. And I just guide them through and then help them see the connections. Okay, this is your interest, skills, values, strengths, and these are the careers. Where do we have alignment? Where do we not? And then there's a variety of things we can do after that. So I have no resistance from them because I'm not actually telling them anything, they're telling me. So I really know nothing, the truth is. I'm just a vessel of questions. That's interesting.
You have to be unique
But
in order
please
to
pay
ask
her.
the right question.
Yes. And I am full of positive reinforcement. So I want everyone to leave their interaction with me feeling like they are a bright, sparkly star that can do whatever it wants to do in this world.
And that's always true. So
Yes.
it's an easy sell.
Exactly.
The reason I ask that is I wouldn't be in this position, the job I'm doing now, without a career counselor I visited with pointing me that direction after sitting down with them. I work with businesses to help them get government contracts.
Right.
I was a creative director for an advertising agency for 35 years. And so when I talk with clients and they say, well, you've only been doing this how many years? What were you doing before? And I tell them that, and they just scratch their heads. They're like, I don't understand that transition. But if you look at my strengths, as you would say, really a perfect transition. If you look what I did over the years, it really was a good transition of skills into a different environment.
Right. I would be curious if the career counselor you worked with told you that, or if he or she is so good that you think that they told you that, but really it was you who told you that.
They literally pulled this job up and said, you need to apply for this.
Interesting.
This fits you.
That's awesome.
And I went, what the heck is that? P-TAC? What's a P-TAC?
You need a hammer to hit it with?
So, yeah, they literally said, this
This is
really,
it.
really fits you. Go try it.
That's awesome.
Now, I would have never picked it out on my own, never. But I'm having a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
That's wonderful.
Fun fact, so we're sitting in the old Gallup building,
Yes.
and Mr. Clifton had his office just right below us, so.
You can feel the
You can-
energy, right?
Yes.
And I put 100 workstations in this building.
Oh, that's right, I forgot.
When
Yes.
I had my French business.
Yes, I forgot about that.
I have another, I'm sorry, I'm always asking questions. The law firm that you're going to be working with for a year, obviously team building and all that's part of this. Is any part of that, and this is where my brain goes, is helping them look ahead for legacy and who they're going to bring up into the senior partners and development? Is that part of what you do as well?
Not yet.
That's your too, right?
Yeah, right. So we are, at this point, they just want to, because of the pandemic, they've had so many people virtual, and then they've hired so many new people.
Yeah.
So they've had a great culture, but now they're like, do we even have a culture? How do we even get to know these new people, and how do they get to know us? So they're just scratching the surface of saying, we just want some help. So they don't even know what they don't know at this point. And so we're, slowly, I have a plan.
Any other questions, comments?
One, shifting gears a little bit. Do you find any resistance as being a woman-owned small business from businesses? Do you sense that pushback at all, or is
Yeah, I think that yes, especially when I first started. So here's another, because I have been straddling the line of being a stay-at-home mom and doing my business. I talked to a business coach when I first started, and I was talking about, I have very limited availability, and she had advised me to not tell people I was a stay-at-home mom and just say, oh, I'm only available on these days. And I think that's great advice, but I have kind of gone the opposite direction. So another part of my business that we haven't talked about today is I work with Rise Lincoln. They do business speakers for women in our community, and I'm one of the coaches there. And the first year I did that, I just did strengths, just general, here's a strengths coaching group. And the second year we were doing it, I'm on a Zoom call at home with my 3 crazy children running around, and we have this great group of business women coaches, and we're all talking about our themes for the year. And I realized no one's talking about motherhood. And I'm like, well, women, not all of us are moms, but a lot of us are, and that's not represented. So I just say on the fly, I'm changing my topic. I'm going to do strong as a mother. I'm going to figure out how strengths fit in motherhood. And so I created this, and it's been wildly successful. I actually had Zillow hired me, corporate Zillow, to lead a group of their women because they have a parent and caregivers group since the pandemic. So they paid me to come in and lead a virtual group through this curriculum. And I offer it on my own, but I offer it through businesses. It's just, there's so many applications for strength. And through doing this, I am on Instagram a lot. I'm not like an influencer by any means, but I share both my business journey and my motherhood journey. And what I have found is there are not enough women sharing the truth. And I am a mother, and I'm not going to hide that. So at first, I was very insecure about being a stay-at-home mom and having kids and being a woman and feeling like, are people going to respect me? And now I have more power, I feel like, because I don't care if you don't respect me, because this isn't unusual. Half of the people in the world are women. Many of us are mothers. The children aren't going to raise themselves. The pandemic in that way has empowered me to say, this is real life. And so if you don't like that about me, then maybe we shouldn't work together. But I feel like that makes me better at what I do. And my whole thing is I'm just authentic. I just want to be as real as possible with people. So I bring the good, the bad, the ugly, the milk on my pants because my kid did that. That's just real life.
You're filling a niche that hasn't been filled or has not been filled a lot of women are like, poo-poo that, or in the business world, especially with men, we don't bring out the motherhood side, so.
Yes.
We need that support.
Yes. And so that is just one of the things I've decided I'm just gonna do. I don't know in what way or anything, but any time that I can tell people this is the way it is. And where that goes or what it becomes, who knows, but it's been successful for my business, and it just makes me feel like a better representation of my gender and of being a mother, because I can just be really authentic with people. And so many moms, I feel like, just gravitate toward that because there is not that voice in the room.
Well, you need to be writing a book.
Okay.
You know, and in your spare time.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, that's how, A, it's extra revenue for you. B, it's meeting women such as Brooke and, you know, Molly. This, you know, who's representing us and whatever, and your real life experiences. I'm sure we can, as mothers, can relate to, you know,
Right.
walking out the door and your child has jelly hands. And you just, that's why I don't wear white.
Right. Right.
I think the other thing, I have a faith background, but the other side of that is the world right now is looking for authenticity and truth. They're tired of just compromising to be lukewarm rather than
Right.
strength or, well, a lot of people are against, but, so thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
We got a Zoom question.
Oh, thank
It's more of a comment, yeah. Thinking about career coaching and coming from a different culture, this will also resonate with what Graham's doing. So, you know, I come from a country, there is no career coaching, there is nothing, you just get a job with the government, that's it. But for my months being at Southeast Community College and, you know, the University of Lincoln, Nebraska, I found out how valuable it is, and I found that informally I was getting some career coaching from my friends and family. But I mean, my current job, I was really in a dilemma of choosing. You know, I was offered a position, a program manager position with UNL Entrepreneurship Center, and my current job with DC organization, I couldn't figure out. But thankfully, and after talking to John Radway about it, and I really appreciate his input, and I want to thank him here for the advices.
You're welcome.
I mean, just talking to him.
I learned as much as I shared.
Yeah, it helped me to figure out, and it also, you know, made me to concentrate what I want to do versus what I'm thinking, you know, generally about, 2-3 years from now. So I think what you do and what every career coach does, it's very important. I say that from my own experience and coming from, you know, a different background, culture. And in the culture I come from, we've not been exposed for this, you know, this team of career coaching. And if you're not exposed to it, you don't believe in it till you know. So that's my comment. Thank you.
I love that. And I will say, this is a side story, but when I was at the College of Business, actually it started when I was in the Central Career Services. We had a ton of international students from China, and I would sit with them, and I was so nervous because I was like, I don't know how to help them. Like, I just felt like I couldn't connect like I could with the American students. So I went to the College of Business. Well, actually, so when I was there, and I told my professor, Deb Mullen, this, and she's like, well, we're taking a study abroad trip to China. You should just come with us. And I was like, okay, because I was young and could just go to China. So I went to China and studied the education system. We went to schools, we met with families, this whole thing. And even before I went, I started connecting with the Chinese students in a different way, because I could say, I'm going to China, like, what do I need to know, what I need to do? And I became so passionate about working with international students because of this experience. So when I was at the College of Business, I created the Career Readiness Certificate for international students. And it was this 8-week program that I designed to help folks from other countries acclimate to our career process, because it is different. And like you said, many people from other countries don't know how to get a job in the US, and the system is different. And so we just really went from the basic things of just, we did resume and cover letter, but we just even did like having conversations and communicating and the soft skills that you need to know how to talk about, and not using, you know, with the Asian cultures, it was not using the collective we, but using the I. And so, yes, I think that like what you say just resonates with me, because that has been a part of my background of working with folks from other countries, because they don't necessarily have that access or that knowledge in the same way, especially if they want to work here in the US.
Yeah, and I also work with international students with the Office of International Student Scholar Office. And the very interesting thing that I hear from international students, they said, oh, but my parents want me to be a doctor or engineer, and I cannot, change that. And I was saying, okay, but you're interested in business. But he said, what if I cannot get a job? I said, okay, you speak 3 languages and you're getting a master in business and a bachelor in something else. If you're not, when you graduate, if you're not getting a job with all these skills and qualifications, it's not you're the problem. There's a problem with the system or with with the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, we have time for one more question or comment. And that is all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to do the drawing, but I'm